Oh, I just want to say that the picture that will be accompanying that will be on this video is apparently an example of Timeslip. Apparently, a picture of a car was taken, years and years before it was started to be produced. So that's basically the explanation for the picture. Hello, Bugsy McCoy here. I basically just wanted to talk a little bit about time and time slips, time travel, a subject which has always interested me, particularly time slips. I wanted to comment on a story I read about this guy, and he was done for stalking this girl. He got in trouble for it, and the excuse that he gave for following her around was that he was on his way to HMV to buy a CD, and all of a sudden he was in the 1940s, and he noticed some popular brand names of the time, of the 1940s, and he saw a lot of things that reminded him of the 1940s, and then he started to think, maybe I am in the 1940s. It was at that point he turned around and saw this woman, and she was very much wearing modern clothes, and had a handbag and what have you. So he basically thought, well, she's modern, so I'd better follow her. I mean, this is the excuse he gave. But what I found quite interesting was he grabbed her or something at one point, and he gave this as an excuse, and it wasn't until later on that the reports were cross-referenced and what have you, and the guy said he saw that one of the shops was a clothing shop, and as he followed the woman into it, it turned into a bookshop, and the woman happened to mention in her report that she walked into this clothes shop and it became a bookshop magically, and I just thought that was kind of weird, that maybe it wasn't just a crazy excuse for stalking a woman, it was actually, time slip. But I mean, you just wouldn't know how to react if something like that happened to you. It's quite prolific, really. I mean, we sort of stuck in time. And if you don't know what time slip is, it's basically when part of the past or the future, in a very literal physical sense, sort of interjects with the present. There's quite a lot of interesting time slip stories. What I like about these type of stories is that you can't discredit them as sleep paralysis and things like that. Whereas if someone says I was in bed and I saw all these gnomes and they were laughing about how I kept my pajamas and a donkey pillowcase. That is an actual story, by the way. With that, you can basically go, yeah, you were basically, that sleep paralysis. Look it up. But when someone walks into HMV to buy, JLS, and they're met with by Queen Victoria and all that, yeah, you'd love to experience something like that. Yeah, but an interesting connection with a lot of these time slip stories is that a lot of them seem to be when people are driving. There's stories of people driving on the road and they'll see people from the 1950s cross past them, or they'll just catch a glance in the peripheral vision of the street looking like it's from the 1950s, and they say that it only lasts until they're aware that it's there, and then it will disappear. And what I found was an interesting explanation for this is apparently we can sometimes go into what's called a micro sleep, and it's basically when you fall asleep for maybe a second and you have a very tiny dream and you're never aware that that you fell asleep. So I think that could be quite a good explanation. But on the subject of time, I've got a joke. He's an immigrant and he loses his watch, and he's in New York. So he walks up to a guy on the street and says, "Please, sir, what is time?" And the guy says, "Well, you'll have to ask a philosopher. I'm just a physicist." Oh ho ho! Or maybe that's a true story. I was just thinking that what an attractive theory for ghosts is the stone tape theory, which is that material objects can somehow record emotion and under specific conditions can replay, scenes of the time. Which is why a lot of people, when they see ghosts, are sometimes, they can only see the knees, because the road was built up, or horse and carriage, obviously the horse is soul and the carriage and everything's not going to be there. And so I think if stone tape is, or water tape as it's sometimes known, is a credible explanation for ghosts, maybe that's what a time slip is on a grander scale, maybe.